Welcome back. Mobile phone payments went a notch higher in Kenya on Monday after the leading mobile payments provider, Safaricom, through its M-pesa platform, launched a service that allows small and medium-sized enterprises to accept payments through mobile money platforms. Now, much like businesses accept card payments through point-of-sale terminals, traders will now be registered with individual till numbers to enable them to accept mobile money payments, which are safer and more convenient than cash. The first phase of this program will target to enroll over 100,000 small businesses by April next year. Payment services under the platform will also include payment of salaries, utility payments, promotional payouts, dividend payments, as well as payments within the transport industry itself.
We work with Equity Bank, we work with KCB, we work with CBA, we work with a whole load of banks using this as a payment tool. This does not compete with the banks. This competes with cash. So instead of walking around with your money to pay for your beer, you simply pay your 120 using M-pesa. It's not a thing which you can pay via a bank transaction, not that small quantity.
We've simplified the requirements as much as possible whilst keeping aligned with Know Your Customer KYC regulation, but just to be able to bring on board as many of our Kenyan business people as possible.
Right. Bob Collymore is the Chief Executive Officer of Safaricom, as I mentioned earlier. He joins me now live in studio. Mr. Collymore, thank you very much for your time this evening. Walk us through the architecture of the Lipa and M-pesa infrastructure. Specifically, who sources the clients? Who's your payment aggregator as well?
Well, we source the client, and we do that via our network of agents and dealers, as well as our own retailers. I mean, the big problem that we have in Kenya is that 98% of all transactions are done by cash, and cash presents a few problems. The first one is security, safety, and inconvenience. So if you take a small dealer, a small merchant, quite often they refuse to give you the goods. If you're working on spare parts, for example, they refuse to give you the goods because if you pay by cash, because the fear is they'll get robbed on the way home. The product that we're launching now deals with that, because it says that you don't have to wait for a bank to be open, and banks usually in Kenya close at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that deals with the security issue. The other problem you've got is that if you're running a shop and you've got 2 or 3 employees, the likelihood is they will take some of your money. So it gets rid of that problem. So what we've done is we recruit these merchants, and they can range from ordinary kiosks to barbershops to pubs and restaurants. We recruit them. You pay, and you can pay small amounts, as small as 10 Kenyan shillings, and the customer doesn't pay anything. The customer doesn't pay a transaction fee, but we do charge a small fee, which is 1.5% to the merchant.
Let's talk about consumer behavior, specifically when it comes to income levels, because these business payment services have existed for retailers like Nakumatt and Uchumi, for example. Is there a key difference in how middle-income Kenyans use M-pesa for their business transactions and how, say, low-income Kenyans use the same service but for their own business-to-business transactions? Yeah,
absolutely. What happens is that higher-income customers, typically in the urban districts, they use M-pesa for sending money back home. The people in the rural districts, they use it for cashing out. So that's the big difference. What we haven't seen is these low-income customers using M-pesa for payments. So they use it for person-to-person money transfer. And the reason why they haven't done that is because it hasn't been convenient, nor has it been cheap for them to do that. So if you're doing a person-to-person money transfer, so if you go to the barber, for example, and you try to pay, you'll have to pay a person-to-person fee. Whereas what we're doing now is we're allowing them to pay that without paying a transaction charge.
Well, as Safaricom rolls out more and more financial services of this sort, predictably the skills demand on that front also goes up quite a bit. How are you planning ahead to meet this skill demand?
Well, if you look at a financial services team, 2 years ago, they were largely telecommunications people. If you look at them now, they've been drawn from fast-moving consumer goods. They've been drawn from the banking sector, people who understand financial services, who understand insurance. That effectively is a refresh of some of the talent, the talent that we have.
Let's talk briefly about data. You recently, of course, unveiled Vuma Online, which essentially is you putting up Wi-Fi routers in public service vehicles, which then clients can access for about $23 or so every month. Public transport is an extremely chaotic business in Kenya. What was a business case for this?
It is chaotic, but you know what happens is commuters can sit in a public transport vehicle for up to 2 hours commuting, which is dead time. So what we've decided to do, and we actually learned this by listening to some of our younger customers, what we've done is we put a Wi-Fi router in the car, in the PSV, typically for a 14-passenger PSV, and that will serve about 10 customers, because we believe that you can be much more productive if you can spend those 2 hours accessing Wi-Fi, whatever you want to use it for.
So in effect, you're monetizing a traffic jam. Quite interesting. Let's talk about your financial side of things. As M-pesa becomes a more, well, for lack of a better word, a payment gateway, as it were, the financial regulator obviously will be keeping a fairly close eye and working very closely with you. How's that relationship matured over time, especially as now M-pesa transitions from just being a cash transfer mechanism to being a national gateway service for payments?
Well, I think what's happened is we've actually had a very strong relationship with the regulator right from the beginning, and that is in large part one of the reasons for the success of mobile money, not just for M-pesa, but mobile money generally here in Kenya. So we go step by step. Every step of the way we engage the central bank, and we make sure that they're comfortable with what we're doing. But actually where we're operating is right at the micro level, at the so-called bottom of the pyramid. Although our biggest transactions can be up to 70,000 shillings or around $900, most of our transactions are sitting at about $10 or $20. So it's not really been a big cause of concern for them.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being, though. Thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Bob Collymore, Chief Executive Officer of Safaricom, talking about making M-pesa quite the payment gateway in Kenya.